Still warm.
Hello, see, good evening, good morning, happy last live stream of the year. It's a bit mad that we only started this year. So if we adjust Madam Camera a little bit. Hello Blue Iris, hello Lynn, hello Susan. Welcome to the annual Void Snuggling session. I hope you are having a restful last part of the year. Are we disturbing you, madam? See, Blue Iris is hand basting a casing on PJ pants made from an old flannel sheet. That is great. Sounds like a cozy project. Hello, Stacy. Welcome. Good evening, madam. And Susan is hand-stitching some microwave toaster oven mitts. That is a really fun project. I thought I would continue patching a pair of pajama pants that I started working on a few streams ago, and I have forgotten my needle and thread. I should probably have a separate pin cushion by my live streaming station as well as on my work table, so I stop moving it back and forth and run the risk of forgetting it entirely. Because we all know we cannot chase a snuggly void away from our lap. But I think I might have. Yes, success. My little Sami needle house. Still means I have no scissors, but we'll have to figure that out somehow. Do you like to sniff it? It's not a toy, madam. I know it's very interesting. You like bone, huh? Maybe that's what I should do, make us a little pin cushion to solve this problem henceforth. But welcome, I hope you are having a good end of the year. These children look like they are. They have had many interesting experiences. And Embla is currently crying because she's left all alone. And that is a most awful fate, we have to know. Anyone else have very dramatic cats? Because I have never experienced a cat quite as talkative as Embla when she wants to play. It is very cute. Not quite so cute at 2 in the morning, but but still very cute. I think this is starting to get drinkable temperature. I have this amazing thermos cup. I've never owned a thermos cup before, so I don't know if this is normal, but I need to let it sit without the cap on until it is a drinkable temperature. And then we can close her up. Otherwise I would go all day and it would be too scalding. Which seems like a flex for this thermos bottle, but can also be a little bit if I'm running out of the house. Can also be a little bit like, you are very warm still. Anyway, how is everyone doing? Do you have any exciting plans for the New Year's? Or are you gonna try to pare back and calm down a little bit? What? You're being very playful, madam. Would you like a new scarf? Hello, Tara. Welcome. We are just having a playoff with a madam who can't really decide if she is sleepy or playful. So how are everyone else doing? Okay, when I first started this, I had a plan that I had 3 tiers, which I remember. Or was it only 2? No, I think there were 3. and that we needed to close them one at a time in order to get anywhere. Happy Boxing Day, the big holiday for cats. It's a big holiday for cats every day, isn't it? Sweetie. I have put all my patches away because I am disorganized and in the middle of chaos, it would appear. But happy Boxing Day indeed. I hope you are having a good one. Why is it a big holiday for cats? Is it because of all the gift wrapping paper, or like, is there a reason behind this lore beyond cats being indeed incredible? Do you have any of that pajama fabric? Because that is equally as soft. Have I used up all of it? Really? There's a tiny piece, it's not. Oh, pardon, madam, I apologize. I'm just a bit clumsy. Elbows everywhere. I suppose this linen could work. I have no scissors. How are we going to cut them to size? We'll pull out a couple of different sized patches and see if we can get anywhere with them. As you can tell, I am very prepared today. And not full of many other things happening all at once at all. Let's start there and see. Do I have two black cats? We do indeed have two black cats. This is Sud. She is the one who most enjoys hanging out with me in the workroom. She is a, silky, short-haired little snuggle bug with a tiny white spot on her chest. And then there is Embla, who is a very fluffy, big squirrel tail always hanging over her back, and is very loud. Likes to run around crying when Spouse is hiding anywhere because she is very tied to Spouse, and cries especially when she can't find Spouse or when she wants to play. And again, she wants to play and she can't find Spouse. So Soot, he likes to hang out with me because she thinks the little one is a little rambunctious. And Embla is tied to Spouse at the hips. She doesn't feature in my videos quite as often as Soot does, because she isn't in the workroom as often. But yes, we do indeed have two of the little voids, and they are very good snuggle bugs. Good morning. So the holiday observed the day after Christmas often has many boxes available for cats to jump in. Oh, I see. We do love a good box, don't we? Especially if it has stuff inside. I should give you a lav mic so they can listen to you purr, although with your propensity for eating audio cables, I'm not sure how long they would last. She's just my teacup. In honor of the holidays. I like the wintry season. I have a... if you ever go to Tromsø, there's a tea shop and they have some local blends. And a crowd favorite is the one called mørketidste, which means polar night tea, and it is a black tea full of warming spices. It has, rose pepper, I think cloves, cardamom, orange peel. It's a very lovely, like, spicy, warming cup to hold around during the cold winter storms. I thought it would be fitting for today. Am I gonna get anything done today, or are you just gonna lie on top of my arms and demand cuddles? No, I was kind of thinking I would try to sew a bit. Is everyone's holidays treating them alright, if they do indeed have holidays? I know a lot of people have to go to work. Business as usual. Keep everything running smoothly, such as it is. It's hard to film you when you're very long, But if you do, I still hope you get some manner of peace and quiet, nevertheless, such as can be hoped for. I had big plans for today, and yet, well, ended up not quite so. Also cat sitting for some friends, and their female cat is supposed to be like a bit unpredictable, but she was very nice when I came over to say hi, though she was very affronted that I went up the stairs to check on the other cat first. He was crying on the ground floor. I'm always impressed by people who have cats who greet you at the door. They're like super social, because my cats are like strangers. I'm gonna hide for a bit and see that you are not actually scary before I come say hi. Whereas these people have cats that are always looking out for snuggles. I do think being in the business of bringing them to cat shows and things like that has a lot to do with it, because they have to be handleable by strangers in that case, don't they? Which is something you, madam, would not be at all happy about. But yeah, it's kind of hard to look at the kind of... I tried to get a cat cam further away so you could see her, and yet she's still eluding being in full screen. I find that... I made it worse. I find that a little bit rude. We are trying to show you off to your people. There she is, roughly. Anyway, I don't know if this is common in black cats or if they're a little bit tuxedo, but she has a little white spot on the front of her chest, like right here. Then she also has two tiny tufts of white hair under her front paws, which is very cute. And you're just being the sleepiest little monkey. Mm-hmm. Where did this other piece of scrap fabric come from? Is anyone working on anything else exciting? I am right now just patching these pajama bottoms of spouses because they have a tear and we like trying to repair them a little bit occasionally. My cat greets me at the door but runs and hides under the love seat the minute she detects strangers. Yeah, these cats are the same. Although we do find that with guests that have visited multiple times, they will come out sooner. Like they will recognize like, oh, this is the voice of a person who is not scary, so I am only going to take an hour or two before popping out. Whereas complete strangers can take a lot longer than that. And it's interesting because it's one of those generational things, like the cat who was afraid of the doorbell was our first cat who has passed away, so she taught Soot that doorbells were scary and that we run and hide when we hear them, and then Soot taught Embla, our youngest, that doorbells are scary so we run and hide, and now that is what they do, even though Embla doesn't really know why we run and hide when there's a doorbell. She's just like, oh yeah, that's just the thing that we do, and then they'll come back not too long after. But other sounds, not so much an issue. And I think it's been good for them to move to a place that has more noise, has neighbors a little bit close by, because she used to be quite startled at any sound because we lived in such a quiet place, which in a way, like here where there are people going up and down the stairs and neighbors doing various things that she can hear in the house, she has had to calm down a little bit because there is noise frequently, but it doesn't actually come in to scare her. So that seems to have been a positive change for her, which I'm very glad of. She pops out of hiding a lot sooner than she used to, which is very good, because if something were to happen and she hides, then it could be very difficult to get her out if we need to get her out of the house for any which reason, if she has already run away. That is one patch picked clean of stitches. Is it meta when you are patching pajamas with old pieces of another pajamas? At least the fabric is similar softness. I hope you're taking enough rest. If you are currently in the winter season, I know some of you might be closer to tropics or South Pole, in which case maybe it doesn't feel like a restful time of year. Although of course we want you to rest and take care of yourself, even if it's not winter season. I just find that whenever winter does arrive, we kind of just engage hibernating mode where projects go on pause, like outside the house, and we just kind of stay inside and enjoy the peace and quiet and the cold. What a surprise, I am live. I am indeed live. It is true, it is not a lie. I try to go live on Thursdays around 6 p.m. Norwegian time, and I thought, we never know, even if this is a holiday in Norway, we never know who might be lonely in the holidays. So it's nice to inject a little bit of normalcy, if that can help brighten anyone's day, which we do like. Missy and Arthur aren't scared of strangers. They'll run up to visitors and ask for pets. Tipper runs and hides until the strangers leave, and Sora just does not give two fluffs because he's old. I mean, fair. That sounds like a good conglomeration of fur babies all having their own ways of dealing with strangers coming into their territory. Share our home with two dark grey sisters who are the color of shadows. Ooh. Nearly voids who each have a small white patch and the prettiest tabby ever. In your estimation, she's my snuggly cat. Oh, that is sweet. Yeah, we have these two snuggle babies, and Embla, the fluffy one, is not quite, like, she's only a little bit over 2 years old, so she's not quite become snuggly yet. She still loves running around and hanging out on top of her cat castle tower. But sometimes, I mean, especially in winter when the weather turns cold, she'll be like, oh yeah, laps aren't actually that bad. And then be shown a toy and instantly be distracted and run off again. As is the way with younger animals. But this one complains that I'm not sitting down to snuggle with her enough. If I make the mistake of sitting down on the couch before 12 in the morning, she will come on my lap and she will lie there for 4 hours, just happily purring away, snoozing until her head falls off my lap, which is so endearing, you know, when pets sleep so soundly that their heads start sliding off until they either catch themselves doing it and wake themselves up, or they just keep sleeping with their head hanging off in what looks like it would be a mightily uncomfortable angle for any human if we attempted anything like that. Almost reason enough not to get a surgery because they are a little bit fiddly to unpick, but also because I like keeping my crafting supplies moderate, because many different crafts have to fit in my tiny workroom and can't have big tools if we want to do many different crafts. You love cats and dogs, but there's no one living with you? Sometimes it is like that. I went for many years without owning cats because, I mean, you're moving, you're living student accommodation or things like that, and you're not allowed pets. And it is easier to move around when you don't have to take care of these fur babies because they are a responsibility. Aww. They do bring so much joy. And we are about to have some ads. They run every half hour, and if you get ads, it's a little bit random depending on where you are. Don't worry, you won't miss any content. We're a chill stream, and I am really grateful, because if you get ads, that means you're supporting the channel. So I don't want to leave you behind, so we just take a break. I grab my mug of choice with whatever hydration I have, and we just take a break. It's like a warm, spicy hug on cold nights. Did we get the rest of them? Happy Hogswatch. Oh yeah, Catboy, welcome. Happy Hogswatch. I do love the writings of Sir Terry Pratchett. They are adorable. We were going to watch that today, actually. It's been such a crazy season that we haven't really had time to do a lot of the things that we usually do. We were almost putting it on earlier this morning day, and yet we didn't, but we shall watch it before New Year's. That is my goal. So happy Hogswatch indeed. I hope you have a very, very good one. Feels like a slightly snoozy chill stream. You just finished watching it, hence your tardiness? Ah, well, see, I am even tardier than thou, because we have not watched it yet this season. Although it has been plugged into the DVD player, and we got to the menu and decided that we were too tired. Such as it is. But what can you do? I got introduced to the movies. I'd been reading the books, but the movies as an adult, and it was quite fascinating. Like, we started with Color of Magic, I mean, as you do, and leveled up from there. Sweetie. Today has been mostly dedicated to trying to recover from yesterday. That is a worthy pursuit indeed. We too have been engaged in recovering from ordeals. Is there any other way to to participate? I'm getting I'm confusing myself, but I think, are you supposed to go there or are you supposed to go there? Happy Hogswatch to all. We watched it a few nights ago. Oh, that's adorable. Yes, it's a good time to be watching it. I am putting together Lego gingerbread man ornaments. Ooh, that sounds like a lot of fun, Kelly. That is not something we have done, but I do enjoy a good creative. I didn't know there were movies. Oh, indeed. Yeah, as an adult, I was introduced to the movies by a friend group of mine, and I thought they were very quirky and fun. They are interesting. I think, like, Sir Terry was quite particular about the movies being reproduced accurately and not, directors taking too many creative freedoms. So they are quite true to the books, which is very nice. It's a nice, refreshing thing. But if you don't live in the UK, it can be difficult to get a hold of. Usually you will find low quality stuff streaming on YouTube, but I mean, they get taken down for copyright claims, as they should be. And there's no other way to get it, at least in Norway, that we have found. So Spouse ended up buying at least The Hogfather as a DVD. So we have a little old DVD player in this ye old time of streaming, because that was the only way we could get a hold of this movie. And I want to get The Color of Magic and a couple of the others too. Farewell. So yes, indeed, there are movies. They are a delight. They are cute, quirky little things. Mermaid Cat? Yeah. He's sweetie. Why are you in my baskets, madam? Trying to get. Madam, what are you doing? Oh, do you want to get out after spells close the door? Give us a moment. I will let you out. There you go. Smooth. You can tear everything down and make a whole lot of noise. Excellent plan. But then we can grab some things and other soothing equipment. That will help us in this patching endeavor. Carton, a little bit of a tight fit. Love the kitty, they are very sweet, but they do run away a little bit. As they are wont to do. Been interested in the Discworld, but I've never known quite where to start. That's one of the things I kind of like about Pratchett. I mean, I know that I read it since I was a young teen, finding them in the library, but it's very easy to start Pratchett because each book can be read on their own. I mean, Color Magic are good because they kind of introduce you to the world, but my favorite are the Tiffany Aching books, which were some of his last books, and I just really adore how he's portraying, rural life and the main character growing up and all that sort of thing. I just find it really, really nice. You clearly see that he has experience growing up rurally, so if you did that as well, you will, recognize yourself a lot in the stuff that is going on. If not, you might explore something new. But that's my favorite series. But Hogfather and Going Postal, they are all really nice. Color Magic and Tiffany Aching are like really good places to start, depending on where you want to start. There's a chart out there to start depending on your taste. That is true, Lynn. I remember the chart. It is a glorious chart. It's a most fantastic thing. Children, you don't have to fight, You could do something else. Less physical media, I know, right? Even though I am, anxious about DVDs also having a shelf life where they talk about things starting to delaminate, but they haven't broken yet, so we shall keep watching it for as long as we can. The Victorian Farm series and the BBC Farm series in general are also they stream them on our local, Norway's equivalent to the BBC occasionally, but they leave soon again too, so that is also something that is just easier to have the physical copy of than anything else. The Weird Sisters is my personal favorite. Oh yes, that is another good one. I do love anything to do with Granny Weatherwax. Is absolutely well worth checking out for just the great writing. I mean, they were such a good writer about people, never making someone feel insignificant or unimportant, because all the characters had wisdom in their own way, which I find really, really nice and insightful. All humans are the main character in their own story and that kind of thing, and also Everyone has their own inner world and thoughts and feelings and fears and wants. They are never just, guard 1 or guard 2, who just dies to show that this person is violent or what have you. Every character has a story, and I think Pratchett is quite unique in that regard, which I just admire more and more the older I get. Enough that we mention, Pratchett several times on this stream when we talk about him, and I will always bring that up because I find that so impressive. That it is so much heart in his writing that I just adore. I love the moist books most, but they do rely on having a sense of the world already established somewhat. It's a good point, but I mean, going postal is still good fun, even if you can't place all of the references all the time. At least I think so. I think it depends on what kind of reader you are. If you accept having some words thrown at you that you don't necessarily understand on a first or second read, or if you like to have everything tidied up and explained to you so that you can follow along with all the puns and all the references and all the background stuff. My favorite is Thief of Time, Monstrous Regiment, and The Witches. All good choices. There are not really any bad choices, are there? That's the fun part. I'm crafting with you, busy making a rope bowl. That is exciting. It's a very good endeavor, Maria. We tried once to make bowls and stuff out of old newspapers, and it did work. You could roll newspaper pages into a little bit closer to weaving materials for weaving baskets, but it was a lot of work. I'm not convinced it wouldn't be easier to just... Well, if you can't acquire any natural resources, that is kind of the challenge, isn't it? Newspapers were ever so accessible when we lived in London because there were free newspapers at the subway stations. They're usually scattered about. The Farm series is my go-to when the world falls apart. Yes, they're so sweet. And it's the first time that I could sort of articulate my frustration the first time I ran into the BBC Farm series, that I wanted something that was safe and interesting and like had a story, but maybe not necessarily a documentary. Like it could have a story, like Ruth walking around doing fun stuff, but there was no drama. They had tension, like could it do the thing, but there wasn't interpersonal drama. I just grow so weary of all the interpersonal, awkward moments and cringe things and anger and stuff. And it was so nice to just have like, these are a lot of scholars and experts showing off their skills and having fun. And I was like, I need more media like this. And at the time I couldn't find any, which is a shame. So that's why we're all like, well, I'm gonna have to try to make some of it, because maybe other people also would like low drama, low cringe content that is just comfortable to come back to. It's less about the words and more about the power dynamics at play that matter to the overall themes of the book, I suppose. I don't know. I can't remember. I think I didn't read the Moist books first, so I wouldn't know how it would be to read them without context, but I don't know, I still enjoyed them. But yeah, it does add an extra layer of enjoyments when you do have the references. So again, I think it really depends on what kind of reader you are, because some readers will accept blundering about blindly a little bit more and sort of reading by the vibes. I do that sometimes, where I'll just be like, well, I'll just accept, do the suspension of disbelief and just be like, okay, this is powerful character, this is a not powerful character. But I know a lot of readers are different, but I do agree, Lynn, like the Moist books are very nice. And they have a movie too. At least going postal, I don't think Making Money has a movie. At least not that one that we have seen. the Farm series and Time Team, which I'm so glad is now officially on YouTube, where the series that made me realize I wanted to major in something to do with history. Oh, that is a good realization. Yeah, I was already like halfway into the chemistry degree by the time I encountered the BBC series, but I can really see that them being really impactful in influencing the way you might find an interest or a specialty or some kind of special interest to enjoy. It's always nice when we find that thing that gives us something of what we really enjoy and thrive with. I haven't watched as much Time Team as I watched the BBC Farm series, but what I have watched with friends is very fun. And indeed, it is very nice when those series that are hard to find officially get on YouTube, because then you know at least the right people are getting the ad revenue so that it's easier to indulge. I've actually bought a few movies on YouTube Movie thing if we couldn't find it on whatever spouse is subscribing to in terms of movies. They tend to swap between different services, so we never have more than one, but then swap between if there's anything in particular they would like to watch. But if we can't find it, I have actually bought a few of them on YouTube Movies, which again is still streaming, but it's nice that there are more and more movies available where you can get them one at a time. Oop. Okay, I think Spouse is done making noise, poor thing, trying to be as quiet as they can. Not always easy. Yes, Time Team was my go-to until I found the Farm series. I watched it from when it started on TV back in the 90s and was so happy when it came on YouTube too. Oh my goodness, yes. Following a series is so fun. If you happen to catch it at the beginning. Like, there is something about that. Even if you don't follow it when it comes out, like discovering something and watching something or reading something for the first time, as opposed to that cozy, familiar feeling of rewatching something. There is that first time is so special. I'm able to be here for a live stream. Welcome! We are having a very chill little end of year stream, just quietly hanging out and crafting or cuddling fur friends or just resting and what have you. Because it is, at least in these parts, the seasons for rest. As the outside is covered in snow and you're like, I don't really want to go outside today. I think I'll just stay inside and snuggle and craft and relax a little bit if I can. Not that that is always a possibility. We are cat sitting some friends' cats over the holidays, and they are such sweethearts, which gives me an excuse to get out to go for a walk over to their place. It is always nice to have an excuse. And we got this glorious sunset today. Winter sunsets can be really, really nice. Even if they are much earlier than usual, they can still be magnificent. Hello, madam. Have you returned to us? Hi. Hey, sweetie. Your audience awaits. Cat cat. What I find funny is the cat channels reposting it but editing the thumbnails to make the reenactors look harrowed and grimy. Gotta have the drama and grittiness. I know. And then they put all these ads like history, whatever, something something channel. And you just know that, again, the ad revenue isn't going to the people who actually created it. And then I'm like, I can't watch this. Kindly give the money to the people they are supposed to go to. So we ordered the DVD instead. Hey, sweetie. One day we shall have a setup where we can keep filming the madam. But yeah, gotta have that drama and grittiness, even if the show has none of it. It's supposed to have some grittiness, but there isn't really drama. Which I find very refreshing. Anyway, I am just patching these pajama pants using old pajama pants from some other poor pajamas that got cannibalized into patches. So, what are everyone else crafting? Or just resting? Maybe you're just having a bit of a breather before a new year starts up again by whatever arbitrary system we use for counting time. I'm not ready for 2025 yet, like, no. But I guess we have no choice. Rearranging my yarn collection with the torn pectoral muscle. That sounds unpleasant. Guess that's kind of crafty, I guess, but I mean, I hope you are also resting, especially if your doctor told you to. But it is nice to get some organization done. It's always so different to, like, I find it hard to work in a craft room if everything is a mess. I can't really think either. Just think better with a clean space to work in, at least. Knitting a cardigan. Oh, always knitting so many cool things, Capo. Like, you just finished a great big shawl and you're already knitting something else. I love to see it. I hope you're having fun with that. I have, as a typical crafter, bit of shame, self-shade, I have enough yarn for at least, well, I have more than that, but I have enough yarns for 2 cardigans that are planned. I do have more yarn than that could probably become a cardigan too, but they are not earmarked to become cardigans, as it were. But I have 2 projects, one for spouse and one for me, and I'd hoped to get started on at least one of them next year, maybe even finish it. That would be something. I always admire people who craft very fast, because that is not me. Gooberface is trying to rest. That is very good. I hope you have a speedy recovery. It's never fun to have your body fight against you. Anadike says, not crafting today, just letting time fly while watching for the chess to start on TV. Oh yeah, that has become quite a Christmas tradition, hasn't it? It's fun. I forget what is on TV unless I'm visiting other people, because we don't really watch a lot of it. But I know a lot of people really enjoy the chess, which is really nice to have some like competitive things on TV that isn't just the same handful of sports we watch all the rest of the time. How are we ever going to find an angle where we can see you and my projects are not in the way? And you are completely visible with all your paws and all your fur and everything. Yeah, I haven't been crafting much the past few days. There's been a lot of celebrations and stuff happening. As is the season, making a lot of food. We hosted at our place this year. Making all of the food is always a bit of a challenge to get everything on the table at the same time. But it's kind of a challenge too, though, so it's fun that way. Tara says they're being terrible and ignoring my works in progress in favor of starting my new Pokemon game. Feel like bleh from my flu shot. That is a good, that isn't even an excuse, that's a good reason to have a cozy time, though, I think. There's nothing wrong with that. Even if you feel guilty. I've heard a lot of people have gotten, exhausted from their flu shots, so let yourself rest if that is what your body is calling for. The problem with this is that in order to reduce bulk, I cut out a section that was just completely broken in the middle of this, which means I can't just fold things back in place. I kind of have to invent something with nothing, because there is nothing to pinch together. And that is always a challenge, to keep things the same size as when you started, when you're darning. There we go. We are about to have some more ads. I guess I can also put this needle back in my little travel needle case. Don't want to put it in the wrong pin cushion and then not have anything. If I go travel, Sarah says, my in-laws gave me a frame tapestry loom for Christmas and they're terribly anxious about getting the hand of using it. Any advice? I'm sure there is plenty of advice in chat as well. I don't know if Jill and Eve has anything particularly on tapestry looms, but they're not... But I mean, maybe they have something. I mean, they have a lot of spinning content, but that's kind of the first person I'm thinking about when it comes to looms, although spinning wheels are their passion. But I would just have a go. Start with like secondhand materials or something like that. Something you don't feel too precious about. That was what I did when I first started card weaving. I extracted what shall I call it? I took out cardboard from the back of a sketching pad and I just cut out cards and used a hole punch to make cards, and then I found some scrap yarn to weave with, just to sort of get a feeling for the technique. It's the same reason why I encourage people to make scrappy projects or mend things or darn things, because it's so much easier on your stress levels. Farewell. If you are using materials, especially the first few times, that you are not feeling precious about, so that you don't have that additional stress on top. I mean, so many times when people are learning to sew, they want to make a very specific dress or like clothing or shirt, trousers, and they buy the fancy, nice material and they buy enough for the pattern, and then they're inexperienced and it doesn't quite work, and they're really sad that they cut into their new nice fabric, and then it's really hard for them to either finish it or do anything at all because they're afraid of making mistakes. So I would start with just using materials you're not precious about, old stuff, scrappy stuff, leftover stuff from other projects, or finding stuff in a secondhand store, because it will reduce your anxiety by a lot, in my experience. But my impression, at least of tapestries in Norway, is that you generally have a plant fiber warp because they stretch less than wool, so like a cotton or linen warp, and then you might be weaving with a nice fluffy wool and create some beautiful tapestries that way. But that might be very well be different in other parts of the world. I don't have a lot of experience weaving using looms. I mostly had backstrap because, again, I didn't have any space as a student. But I do want to, because it looks like a good amount of fun. And of course, as with most weaving, you know, the warping of the loom is often the time-consuming part, and the weaving is a reward because you did all the work and all the things in setting up. Unfortunately, when you have drastically reduced energy reserves, making stuff you don't want or need instead of the things you needed means months of delay or never getting to actually do the thing. That is a very good point, Lynn, and it depends on the person, doesn't it? But at least when I was a really beginner, I needed a scrappy project or two just so I wouldn't ruin and spend even longer on projects. But if you have some background in things and you know what you need and want, then definitely take the time to make that thing you want. I like the idea of doing a sort of sketchbook piece of weaving using scraps left over from my crochet and the cotton warp threads that came with the loom. Sounds like a fun start, and it gives you a chance to just play without pressure of knowing what you're doing. And I mean, these days, YouTube and the internet at large is full of people teaching us how to do things. So I'm sure you'll find a really good amount of tips and tricks just snooping about, depending on what you are looking for. There we go, just one little... This is stretched a bit, but we will just... Hopefully it shall work nevertheless. Although I may very well be called a heathen for not folding in my fabric, because I think that leads to less bulk, and then just give it a good blanket stitch or whip stitch around the edges so it doesn't unravel. Because bulk can be equally as distracting as anything else when you're mending. People who are not used to wearing mended clothes, it is a habit, because there is, if it is something that touches your skin, there is a difference. It's thread already on here. Guess that means we can use that. This patch will probably be quite visible compared to the others, just because it is a very contrasting fabric, but it shall be repaired. And it is in that typical crotch area where trousers do tend to rip, so it's not like it will be the most visible of men's anyway, it just has to be functional. Lisa says, greetings from the San Francisco Bay Area. I did quite a lot of Christmas knitting and I'm trying to finish socks for my partner. That sounds lovely. I had quite a rush to finish the last of the handmade gifts before the big day, and now I am sort of trying to finish various small things that got neglected in the process so that we can start the new year with the new projects and fun things and stuff. I still have the As You Like It other shawl that Capo already stitched a whole big shawl in the time that I just haven't even been working on it. So that we can cast it off together maybe and start something else. Maybe one of those cardigans that I just talked about having bought the yarn for and wanting to work on. I really want to work on a sweater for, or a cardigan for spouse, because they've been wanting that. A really nice long and warm one. And they accepted, like, I made them pick out the wool because they can be a little bit picky about the color, and then I'm gonna do the pattern and everything, and hopefully it shall be a very nice cozy garment that'll keep them warm for many years to come. Sarah says, rag rugs are probably a goal for me. I've been saving up worn out jeans, bed sheets, 2 small shirts, etc. to make into strips for a rag rug piece. Oh, I love that. That is such a fun idea, especially if you have some sort of emotional attachment to anything. It's really fun if you make it out of secondhand stuff too, but I have a friend whose grandmother wove a fair bit of rag rugs. And they have this fun thing where, like, on the rugs that they have in their house, they can point to them and say, you know, this was the bedsheet I had growing up. This is these tea towels that got worn out. And they will have memories attached to the rags in the rug. And I just thought that was really lovely. I noticed that I do the same thing whenever I'm doing patchwork projects with my scraps, because I'll be like, oh yeah, this was that project where we did that thing, and then I'll get to go down memory lane a little bit, and that is a lot of fun. Catpaw says, love that shawl. I've been using it quite a bit. It took almost 2 months. I think it's impressive that you got it done in 2 months. Like, I could never, unless it's for a video. Everything else just takes so long. It's a bit shameful how slow I can be. But yeah, good on you for making it that fast. Not that speed is always the goal, so long as we are enjoying the process. Well, no, this isn't the last thing in my mending pile by any stretch, but it has been sitting in my mending pile for a while, so it shall be very good to get it out of the mending pile and back into circulation. Hear spouse puttering about downstairs. I am really very lucky. Like in the last weekend before the holidays, the Yule holidays, I was baking, even though I was not really up for it, but I was trying to bake a couple of different Christmas cookies a day, and would go to bed exhausted and would wake up to a clean kitchen, which was just beyond amazing and helped me get all the cooking done. Which is one of the ways that we deal with, like, usually I do the majority of the cooking, especially if it's for any type of hosting, and then spouse deals with the cleaning, which is amazing, because I have to admit I'm not the biggest fan of cleaning, but I can do cooking, and then we split, because cleaning is easier for them, so we both feel like we're winning, which is the best kind of compromise. A crazy quilted project bag is my new treat. Once a few more UFOs are completed, I've been saving velvet and silk scraps for a while. Ooh, that sounds like it will be a lovely scrap project, Iris. I feel like with my boring fabric choices, I end up with like less exclusive fabrics for scrap fabrics too. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I should choose something more interesting because it'll give me more interesting scraps to play with. Then I'm like, well, these are your preferences, they just are. If you wanted more interesting scraps, you could always just probably find or get someone's scrap pile, or go to a secondhand shop and buy things specifically for using them for scrap projects if the fabric is fun, or do like Shannon and like ask the community for their scraps, and then they get all sorts of fun things. I don't feel like I have the spoons to manage that, to be honest, but it does look like a lot of fun when Shannon does it. They are very good at doing that kind of thing. At the moment you have just a small loom, but I can still get rid of my old bed sheets, weaving strips of rug with a width of 50 centimeters. That's not too bad. And that is wide enough to have on the floor by my bed. Yeah, there's always something to use the different fun bits for. And even if then, we've also seen like thin strips of card weaving sewn together into bigger strips, into bigger fabrics, so that you can make them into bags, into jackets, into different things. So even if you're limited by width, you can still make a lot of amazing things, which is still pretty cool. I used a bunch of old t-shirts and cut them into 3/4 inch round strips and crocheted them into bathroom mats where we used to live. Really squishy underfoot to start. And then of course washable, which is nice if you have enough sun to do that. So that is a really fun thing. Again, like, and then you remember clothing or whatever when you see it, which I think is an extra special treat, knowing that you're trying to get, the most use out of it that you possibly can, trying to respect the fabric and the labor and the like energy just inherently in the thing that, you know, it took a lot of energy to make the thing. So being resource conscious in managing it is something that I just find really satisfying and fun. Like, I enjoy it. It doesn't feel like a pressure to me. It just feels like an enjoyable thing to engage in, which I know is not the case for everyone. So we do no shaming, but I find it to be something that I enjoy quite a lot. It's very, very satisfying to me to sort of get to something that feels like zero waste in terms of fabric use, but it isn't true zero waste because there's always some waste, but it's the intention of being like, yeah, but if I use this for something else, it can get new life and turned into something else that is fun and valuable and brings joy into my house. Casing done, elastic threaded, and I may have remembered where my scraps from decades of sewing projects may be hiding. That is always a challenge, isn't it? Let us know if you actually figure out where you put them. If your very clever past self can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge, can't it? When you're too clever for your own good. Anyone here made dye with lichens and ammonia? I have not. I only have some books and magazines on the subject that are fascinating. There are people in Norway who have, and I think they are amazing. Some of the lichens that they use, they can only find small amounts of, and then they have to dry them and sort of keep them until they have enough to actually do a proper dye vats. But I did see one lady who had been collecting for, I think, a decade of walking in the mountains regularly, and then, you know, only harvesting a little bit so that it can regrow and regroup itself. And when they finally got to actually dye some cloth, it turned out this gorgeous, deep, deep purple that could rival, you know, royal purple, Tyrian purple. It was just gorgeous. But it took a lot of work, a lot of hiking in the mountains and knowing what to look for before she could get there. That is exactly the problem, too creative at stashing, yeah. When we're like, I will hide this thing, or like put this thing in the clever place so I know where to look. And then it's you later and you're like, where did I put the, where did I think it was clever to put the thing? Past self, if I was past self, how would I be thinking? Which is always a challenging exercise. It's a bit of hit and miss, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There are still some things we haven't unpacked from the move that I'm just kind of making do without until we can unpack, because I don't have the spoons to go look for them, trying to figure out how past self had been thinking. Even if I tried to label each box, but I didn't like write down everything in a spreadsheet to cross-reference with. I wasn't that organized. But I did once try to darn woven clothing instead of patching it, and I can say, like, it wore out so fast. Very much not ideal. Might want to, unless it's an exception, like if it's a great big hole, especially that typical trouser crotch repair. It has to be something woven, I think, because when I tried to darn it just with wool thread, was very much not successful. It just wore out so fast and started pilling. But you live and you learn. I did darn my wool coat a little bit because that fabric is so thick, so it was just a matter of replacing a little bit of the thread that had fallen out or been cut or something like that. It wasn't like a great big hole, it was just a little tiny repair, and that worked really well. I've also seen that Japanese technique where they insert a piece of the same fabric back when they're mending it so that the mend isn't visible, which I think is really impressive, but I have to admit, how often do I actually have a piece of the fabric that I'm trying to repair? That is very rare. Hello, madam. Are you gracing us with your presence yet again? Yeah. There she is. Don't snuggle the microphone, darling. Some people wear earphones. That's a lot of waiting and patience. I foraged a couple different species on the ground and have a decent amount. I'm in the Rocky Mountains of the US. I'm not familiar with US flora, but you might get some really nice colors. See some videos on YouTube, and I really don't want to boil ammonia. I can understand that. That is not something you really want to breathe in large amounts of. Definitely be mindful of the chemical safety surrounding that. Like, if you are in a rural location and you're not gonna, I don't know, poison everyone around you, you may be able to work outside, you know, a really well ventilated area. It's quite stinky. I have worked with ammonia a fair few times, and it is not even an acquired taste, it's just harsh. But if you don't have a fume hood or any of the, you know, regular chemical protections that I don't assume most people just working at home do, then working outside, if it is a good day with a little bit of air movement, can really help, depending on the amounts. Unless you're in an area that really gets like a lid due to weather, like you don't get any wind, you don't get any air movement. But yeah, definitely have a lot of respect for stinky chemicals like that. They can really knock you out if you're not cautious. I still have things packed in boxes from 25 years ago. One has to assume they aren't very important. I suppose, yeah. We allowed ourselves one box that we just labeled sentimental, that we don't go through, you know, really much at all, except once in a while. But I have hoped that, you know, when summer rolls around again and we get a little bit more energy back, we might be able to unpack a couple more boxes. Maybe we don't finish this year, but progress is more than enough to make me happy in that regard. So long as there's progress, that's good enough for me. But yeah, I still have a box of office supplies sitting in my workroom, behind the work table, in the area where I'm filming, that still hasn't been unpacked, and the cats find it super interesting to jump in and out of it, so I really need to finish that. And there's also another box of yarn just stashed in a cardboard box, not very #aesthetic, just, you know, some realness for you. All my big scraps that aren't in my tiny scrap basket are in a cardboard box as well from the moving, so just cardboard boxes everywhere, because they are very useful. Our homeowners association would have a small cow and a brick if we tried to do natural dyeing, so alas, it is the future plan. Yeah, like, don't do that in residential areas with a lot of neighbors. Like, just don't. It has to be like proper rural if that is the case, like middle of nowhere, or you get access to places where they have chemical fume hoods and proper filtration of air. things. So I get that a lot of, like, I wouldn't want to do that where we're living at the moment, because it wouldn't be very nice to people that are living nearby. Guess I could go into the woods, make a campfire, and wear some witchy clothing. I mean, that does sound like a good day out. Just make sure you tell people where you're going and when you expect to return, so that if you do pass out from the smell of ammonia, someone will come looking for you eventually. We have this thing in Norway called I guess you would call it the mountain, not safety rules, it's more like mountain common sense rules. Things you should know that, we are taught as children, such as, always tell someone where you're going and when you expect to be back. Always bring extra clothing, and the weather can shift at any time. That is very common all over Norway, that you have a bright sunny day to begin with, and then by the end of the day it's suddenly completely foggy and misty and rainy, and you see nothing. And another one was, it's no shame to turn around if you find that it was too ambitious a hike for you, then you can just go back. There is no shame in admitting that you might want to try this hike again later, and many, many things like that. There are 10 rules in total. I don't remember all of them, but they all have the spirit of don't be dumb. Which is the wrong kind of attitude, but it's the be mindful, so that as few people as possible, because there are always tourists in summer who get lost and needs rescue, and of course that takes up resources. So we try to be mindful when there's big stormy winds and things like that, to be like, all right, if we don't need to go out, maybe we should stay inside, because even if we drive safely on the roads, like what if something happens? What if we tie up an ambulance or other rescue teams when they might have other emergencies to attend to as well? So do we really have to go outside, give them even more work? I don't know, maybe I'm strange in thinking like that. But then again, if they have, danger hazard or hazard code red for the weather, do I really want to be going outside anyway? Let's be real. Smithy says, glad I caught alive. Hello and welcome. I've been doing lots of napping today after my 7-hour embroidery escapade the other night. That sounds like a glorious way to spend the end of the year, to be honest. But you are most welcome. We are just having a very chill, very low-key mending session going. We are about to have some more ads, so that will happen in a moment, about half a minute. So again, we pause for ads. You don't miss out on any content, so you can just relax and, feel happy in the knowledge if you do that. If you get ads, you are in a very real sense supporting the channel. And then we all get a chance to have a little hydration break, which is always useful. Oh, this really is a hug in a mug. Such a nice tea. Catpaw is asking, question to the chemists. I have a candle in a glass, store-bought Iego, and now the texture has changed. It's burning, but it smells like petrol. Should I worry? Probably not. My first guess would be, candles are mostly paraffin and wax, so the most likely is that the fats turned rancid, just like butter can turn rancid and oils can turn rancid. So can the fats and oils in candles. Although being a largely paraffin and petrol based, they go rancid slower, but they can still do that. And going rancid just means that it is reacting with oxygen in the air and breaking down, and you'll get things like butyric acid from butter if it's breaking down. So it's just the fats in the candle breaking down would be my first assumption of what is happening with your stinky candle. So if you're still enjoying the candle, it shouldn't really be very harmful, but it might decrease your enjoyment of the candle. If the smell is bothering you, you are allowed to throw it out, but I wouldn't assume anything dangerous first and foremost. Definitely some good common sense through it. I'm glad to hear it. This was something that was drilled into us in school. You know, they taught us the 10 mountain sensibility rules. And I don't know if other countries have similar things, but they were always very comforting to have some sort of, if something happens, here's a list of things so that you keep calm because you know what to do. Baby bison are cute, but don't pet them. A lot of animals are cute, but don't pet them. Like, wild animals are wild. Respect their, privacy. It's always a good place to start. Makes good sense, like keep blankets, waterproofs, etc. in the boot of the car in winter. Yeah. We have similar things here. When we drive south, if we drive south in winter, we drive over a mountain, generally, like a mountain range, like... Oh, it has a word. It's not tundra, but it's like plains, but they're on top of the mountains. It's quite far. It's a national park, and we get to drive through it. They put a road through it, and it's gorgeous. So pretty. But it can be dangerous, but it can be quite windy up there and a lot of snow. So we always bring warm clothes and blankets and a full car, tank of gas. And I usually bring a thermos of hot water with me as well, so that we have something. Nothing has ever happened so far, although I guess we did get stuck behind that tiny avalanche at one time, but that was on the way down from the mountains. We were almost done with our trip. And then, something that is not encouraged at all, the road, what shall I call them? The people who maintain the roads were not very happy, but what ended up happening was that some people, being prepared, had tiny avalanche shovels in their car, and they just started shoveling the avalanche away so that cars could pass. And the road experts were like, you should really not take matters into your own hands. There could have been structural damage to the road, it could have been dangerous. But it did mean that we ended up getting home a lot sooner than we feared when we saw that suddenly there was a lot of snow completely blocking the road. There are a lot of tourists who visit Yellowstone and get hurt for not respecting the wildness of the area. Definitely, same in Norway, although it isn't so often, wildlife and animals. That doesn't happen that often, but it's more that they don't realize, oh, madam, you are going to slide way off. Sweetie, my knees have ends. It is more that they don't realize how dangerous some of the hikes are, how long they are, how long they take, the fact that there are no restrooms, no cafes, nowhere to get snacks. People in Norway will generally just take water from the streams because the water in Norway is, we are spoiled with very clean water, so drinking water directly from a mountain stream is very safe. It's something that most people do. They'll bring a bottle and just keep refilling, but they have to bring their own food. Unless it happens to be autumn and they can forage some berries, but that's not going to keep you going for very long if you get cold and get lost. You need something more, high in energy. So that's the biggest problem, is people getting lost and underestimating the length of the hike and the weather. And then in the north especially, and sometimes in the west, there are some tourists who fall down really steep places and fall to their death, which is always tragic. So it's more of the nature that is dangerous for the tourists more than the animals living in it. They're generally quite shy and only rarely become a danger to humans. We are much more of a danger to them. Oh, thank you. The candles are hellishly expensive here. I'm glad you are relieved, but yeah, I think the fat has just gone rancid. So if you're enjoying the candle despite the smell, it shouldn't be dangerous to use. Oh my goodness, she does the snoring purrs. They are the cutest. Goodness, I'd love if we were taught wilderness common sense in school. That is sad that you don't. I heard that people in the US also don't get taught, because we got taught a whole number of skills. Like I remember we had a bike to school certificate, and you had to pass the test before you were allowed to bike to school. And if you were a 4th grader or older, you could take the test. If you passed, you were clear to bike to and from school. And that was all about traffic safety and making sure that, a child on a bike is very fast and can jump out and startle cars and get in all sorts of accidents when you suddenly up their speed like that. So it was all about, paying attention to other people in the road and that kind of thing, so that you had some awareness of how traffic safety works. It's not like you're getting a license for a car or anything like that. That is a lot more extensive, but a child-sized version of, don't just pop out in the middle of nowhere in front of a speeding car. That is not good for anyone. And we also had swimming lessons and cooking lessons and arts and craft. We had a little bit of housekeeping as well, but it was like a tiny part of cooking, like one class out of a whole year. And most people didn't like it because it didn't give us food to eat when we were used to cooking giving us food to eat. And I had cooking in 4th and 9th grade, so 2 years as part of the curriculum, not the whole years. And swimming as well was, I think, 3rd and 4th grade, was it? Suddenly I'm blanking, but that was also 2 years, teaching people to swim. And then, common like maths and Norwegian and English and social stuff and science and all of the other usual things, to varying degrees of teacher engagement. If you're in Yellowstone or in Iceland, obey the warning signs near any hot springs too. I think the general rule here is obey the warning signs, because they have started putting up warning signs on some of the hikes where tourists just keep getting lost, being like, this hike is longer than you think. Have you brought suitable shoes, snacks, water, a jacket if the weather turns foul on you? That kind of thing. A lot of tourists ignore it because they have their once-in-a-lifetime trip to Norway, and it's been something they've been planning for years, but some people do respect it and be like, yeah, no, maybe I'm not skilled enough for this trip in particular. One tries at least. Hello, Lee says, hello Kristine, god jul everyone. Is indeed god jul. I hope you are having a restful end of the year shenanigans. Carry bear spray and know how to use it? Yeah, I don't think we have. Do we have bear spray in Norway? Generally just scare the bejeebus out of them, was what we were told. Except in Svalbard, where you also get guns, which is a different level of terrifying to just be handing out guns to civilians who pass a very small shooting test. But things are a bit different up there in the north, where there are polar bears. I wish they'd make even adults on bike comply with traffic safety. Oh, that is not to say that Norwegians, there are still plenty of accidents between bikes and cars. They still go very, very fast and get into a lot of things. I'm very cautious when I'm riding my little e-bike around in summer, enjoying the warmth, keeping to pedestrian paths where I can, because cars are big and heavy and scary, and I would rather not challenge them. Good evening and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Toro. I hope you are having a good time if you are celebrating. So there we are. Let's see. Can I reach without bothering Minnie Madam too much? We have one repair, if you can see that. On the inside, we can see the linen patch quite clearly because it is very different from the rest of rest of the fabric. This fabric is already pilling quite a bit, so I don't know how much longer it shall live, but a little longer is the main goal. But then on the outside, how visible is it on the outside? I haven't even checked myself yet. Where'd she go? It's still a bit visible on the inside, or like on the outside, but not so much at all. So in terms of a spot that isn't much seen, I consider that a success. Hey, sweetie. You are the best little kitty. I work in a public-facing profession and people will ignore signs. They will. Very much so. Moving around town in a wheelchair, I'm way more scared of bikes than cars, which is crazy. I don't think that is crazy at all, because bikes are very unpredictable. They will jump from road to pedestrian lane, back to the road, like suddenly crossing the road. It's, especially if it's a child or a teenager on a bike, I am super wary if I'm driving. It is scary. But of course you also have the scooters that also can be very fast and often just in the way, just left in the pedestrian lane, blocking especially like wheelchairs from getting around. And winter is bad enough as it is with poorly mowed pedestrian lanes. So no, I definitely understand people being scared of bikes in a wheelchair, because they are just unpredictable. I've always wanted to visit Svalbard. It can scare me, even though there are sadly more of them than people in the US. I can see why they'd be necessity in Svalbard. Yeah, they are for like whoever is leading a group. So as a tourist you wouldn't have to when you have a guide who does it. But for my first time I went there as a student, which means that the group leaders, we still went through the training, but the group leaders had the, or did we? It's blending together, but the first time I went as a student, and then the group leaders had the safety and the rifles and all the thing in case a polar bear showed up. But the next time I was asked to help with the teaching of the same course, and then I was one of the ones who had to pass a course and get given a gun, which was terrifying considering like you just give these guns to people for these teaching things without necessarily having a lot of experience, apart from hitting a target at some range, and you get some flares and other things, and it's terrifying to me. At least in Svalbard you need to pass a shooting test. Here in the US not so much. That is even scarier, to be honest. I thought like Svalbard was already lax in what they demand for you to get a gun, but to have no test at all is terrifying to me. Those things are serious stuff. I am a bicycle rider, and I can tell you pedestrians can be scary and unpredictable too. Absolutely. I think a lot of driving teachers in Norway just generally go for the attitude of assume that everyone else in the traffic, image is an idiot or is going to behave erratically and plan after such, and you will also be seen as an idiot by others because that might be the easiest way to get around. They are a necessity in some parts of the very rural parts of the US, believe it or not. Coyotes, bobcats, moose, alligators, and bears. Yeah. It's we do an alligator check before opening the door every time because that's a lot of teeth. That's a terrifying thing. Norwegian wildlife is generally not very scary. Wolves sometimes take, like wolves and bears, and sometimes lynx will take sheep in the mountains sometimes, which is always a big cause for conflict between the farmer and wildlife conservationists. But they very rarely, don't think we have almost any documented cases. They're shy and they generally want to run away instead. Here in the Netherlands there are no scary animals, although some people say the few wolves that live here are scary. Yeah, it's kind of same in Norway. There are very few wolves and very few bears and lynx as well, and especially the lynx really keeps to themselves. And they generally don't create any problems at all. But I mean, speaking of moose, Tara, they are actually the biggest problem because the accidents in moose are very large. Moose actually kill more people in Norway than any other animal, on all the predators combined. Which is scary because they are big animals. I've seen a couple up a little closer than I would like, and gotta respect the moose. My husband taught all of our kids when they started driving that all drivers are out to kill you. I mean, so long as you don't take it too far, I think. Like, so long as that doesn't mean you get aggressive to other drivers, you're just looking out to stay safe. I mean, I'm probably an over-anxious driver, don't get me wrong. I prefer to take the bus or my little e-bike in summer, because I find the responsibility of running around with a heavy metal murder machine is a little bit scary, and sometimes we have to, but I really prefer not to. Went hiking in Brazos Bend State Park in Texas, where there are alligators roaming freely throughout the park. The rule they give you is to put 25 feet between you and the critter. That doesn't sound like a lot at all. But at least there is a guideline of some kind. Former cyclists and road racers, wow. Here, I wish cars respected our space. I've had bruises from being hit by mirrors, doors opening, and cars parking in the cycle lane. Yeah, it's just why don't people respect that everyone is allowed to be in the trafficked areas, like everyone has a right to be enjoying the roads? I've talked about this before as well, but when we lived in London, we acquired some second-hand bikes. They were just like £50, so we were like, that's something we can afford compared to, I think, £120 it was at the time for a monthly subway pass, an Oyster card. So we got those, and we had two polar opposite experiences, because when I went from where we lived to work, I had one of the rare bike superhighways in London where you have, a designated bike lane. There is clear sign that this is for the bike. I had that almost the entire way to work. Very rarely had any issues with any drivers. It was very safe. It was very nice. I didn't have to be in a stuffy underground carriage. I could enjoy, riding, having some wind in my face, getting to wake up in the morning and seeing parts of London rather than just sitting in a carriage. I thought that was just really very nice. I enjoyed it a lot. And then in contrast to that, Spouse had no cycling superhighways on their way to university. They had a lot of, like you said, Capo, aggressive drivers, people honking, trying to hit you with their mirror, and just like driving really close. So they stopped biking after a really very short time because the roads weren't designed to show the drivers that bikes are a part of this road image, and they have their space over here like I had the luxury of getting. And it was just so fascinating to me how we were both doing the same thing. We were both biking in London, and yet we had two extremely different experiences. Just blows my mind. You also need to turn around if you see an alligator or find a different path. I believe that. It was the same with polar bears, because that is becoming a big problem in Svalbard, that a lot of tourists go to Svalbard because they want to see a polar bear. So the guides will be, skirting the rules by getting closer and closer so they can get a better shot with, or like look at with binoculars or their cameras or whatever. But as soon as you see a polar bear, you're supposed to turn around and go the other way. If you see it on the horizon, like, get away, don't get closer to the polar bear, because they live here and they need to live here. And that was a big problem, that, tourists want to get closer and they're not supposed to. They're supposed to leave the species alone as much as possible. unless they walk into town, which they did multiple times. You would get in the news, you would hear a helicopter, whirring around at 3 a.m. and then you knew that probably another polar bear had gotten into town and they were trying to scare it back out, and you would see in the local news that, here was usually a young male, roaming around trying to figure out what on earth this human settlement thing was. Far more scary being in a city at night than in the woods. I agree. The woods are they're nice, although I will say a full moon at winter is much easier to navigate by than a new moon, because I've crossed acres of fields in winter when there's nothing growing on them, and the difference having a full moon makes when there's no other light is extensive. You can see so well, at least I could when I was younger, when you have a full moon, and when there's no moon, you're just stumbling in the dark. You don't appreciate it unless you have lived in places that have no synthetic, no lights. You've never seen an alligator in your yard, but we are in their range, and thus an abundance of cautions was deemed prudent, and that is fair enough. There are many things that we do with an overabundance of caution that probably wouldn't happen even if we didn't exceed the caution, but the consequences are so large that you exert the caution anyway, because why not? It doesn't take that long. That's what the rangers told us. Got to see a few alligators on my hike. Really amazing creatures for sure. I believe that. Beautiful too. They didn't seem to mind if you gazed at them from afar. That is a good way to do things. That is also very nice in terms of wildlife that wants to be gazed upon. I have no experience with alligators, so I wouldn't know. I can only trust your word for it, but polar bears are curious. And also predators that are struggling to get food with the declining ice rinks. Not rings, but ice caps. So if you see a mother with cubs, she will protect her cubs. If it's a young male, they will be curious about what you are, and maybe also that you're food, so they will come. They will approach you if you get too close, which can be tragic for everyone. I've always loved walking around town at night. There's some spots where I wouldn't go, but overall I get in less trouble than by day. Yeah, that's a shame. You get in less trouble. I have very little experience with that, being generally a homebody and in a very safe country, but it's a shame that we can't enjoy beautiful city sights as much as we would like. You are so chill right now. Lisa says, I'm not particularly active on Facebook, but there's a great group called I Just Know I'm Going to Die Trying to Let's Something I Shouldn't. It's an actually sensible group with a dark sense of humor. That sounds like a fun group. I mean, there are good conglomerations of people everywhere. I'm not on Facebook myself either, but I know a lot of people still get a lot of joy out of it. Way off the subject at hand, curious about how much daylight is in Norway now and how you cope with so little sunlight. It's a habit more than anything else. So right now, I would say, at least here in Trondheim, the sun comes up at about 9 a.m. and goes down at around 3 p.m. I could go check the charts and see the accurate time, but at the moment that is just around where it does, and it's habit more than anything else because we're used to the seasons changing. A lot of people also take extra vitamin D, either from some fish liver products and things like that, or tablets or other things. That really helps. But when I lived even further north, I mean, I have lived in Tromsø in the Arctic, past the Arctic Circle, where you get polar nights, as well as the midnight sun, which in Tromsø means that for the polar night, you get 2 months of no sun coming up at all. And you will sort of get a little blue horizon, like a brightening of the horizon, as if the sun is going up, and then it goes down again. Like it never actually comes over the horizon, is how that feels like. And they always talk about how it's important for people's mental health to get up early enough that you get that tiny bit of brightening of the sky, so you get a sense of night and day. Because if you don't, people can get really depressed, and some do get really depressed. And people make do with things like, these days you can have like daylight lamps that can help. But a lot of the friend that I made that grew up there, she told me a couple of stories about how they make do. And one thing is that it's just habit. It's just how things are done. Like she told the story of a friend who married a person from the south, and they went south to celebrate this Yule season with the southern person's family. And the people from the person from the north got really upset and depressed because they had sunlight on Yule Eve and like the winter solstice. That was just wrong. They just got really upset because you're not supposed to have sunlight on midnight, on the winter solstice and on Yule night. Like that was just really weird to them. So it's a habit thing. First of all, it's what you're used to. You grew up in it. It's just your normal, that sense of things slowing down in winter, and you slowing down quite naturally because the days are shorter, so you get kind of more tired as well. And at least I sleep a little bit more, I do admit. But another thing, the important thing that my friend talked about is this really cements the importance of celebrating the winter solstice, especially in, northern, or like when you get closer to the poles. I assume it'd be similar in like New Zealand and South America and stuff like that, when you get far away from the equator and you get that drastic difference between night and day. To celebrate the solstices just kind of naturally, culturally, because what you do is you celebrate everything. So when the sun stops getting over the horizon, which happens in Tromsø around 22nd or 23rd of November, the bakers make a special like polar night bun, which when the sun is going away is like this, I guess it's kind of like a round donut without a hole. It's kind of fried and covered in sugar, and in the case of it getting darker, they take it and they just dip it in dark chocolate, so it gets, this is really dark baked goods. It's delicious. They used to fill it with chocolate mousse, but some people say that was too rich, so now it's filled with vanilla custard, and you only get it those few weeks when the sun is going away. And then you look forward to the winter solstice, Yule, however you celebrate it. You light a lot of candles, you sit inside, you do like that, Norwegian, Danish, Swedish, the Scandinavian hygge thing, where you light candles, you have fussy blankets, you make it really cozy inside, and you're looking forward to Christmas, Yule, the winter solstice, whatever it is. You're looking forward to celebrating something. So you kind of forget that it's getting darker a little bit if you really get into that spirit of celebration and you're looking forward to that thing and making yourself cozy. And then the second magic that happens is that once you have reached this point, the winter solstice, the Christmas, the Yule, the days are getting brighter again. So now you can look forward to the days getting brighter again. This is getting a really long-winded rant, but that is kind of how you deal with it. And a lot of Norwegians also really enjoy winter. They enjoy going for skiing, they enjoy going for walks, they enjoy the silence of the nature when it is in snow, they enjoy the restfulness that it invites. They enjoy, some people even will ski to work, like you would bike to work, like as a completely normal thing. They have, in Tromsø, they have, just like they have bike racks, they have racks for putting your skis within. So it's kind of, it's a sense of enjoying the seasons as they are and just trying to be in the moment and making the best out of everything. But especially that the importance of celebrating the solstice, because as it's getting darker, you look forward to having a big feast. And once the feast is over, you look forward to the days growing brighter again. And before you know it, you have the midnight sun spinning above your head, never going down for 2 months, as a contrast, which makes for the sweetest berries you ever did taste. Forage in the past the polar circle is special because it's unmatched, completely unmatched. But that's a digression. Nice lampshade. Did I make it? I did not make this lampshade. This was a gift from a friend who lost their mother this year and had to go tidy out their apartment as the only child in this mixture. So they gifted me some things that they thought I would like, mainly crafting supplies and this beautiful lamp that has a very soft light bulb. I also have a beautiful lamp that spouse gave me that looks like a flower, but I can't find any light bulbs that are soft enough that they don't just overexpose and blow out that section of the screen. So this one has a very, very old but very soft light bulb, and the shade is quite dark, so it stays here as a nice mood light. It doesn't overexpose the shot, so it gets to stay, and it's a beautiful thing and reminds me of my friend and how I have people who think about me when things happen, and like we share and we try to help each other. And Enrique agrees as well. Yes, I really enjoy the changes of seasons. I would not want to live without them and the ever-changing surroundings they bring. Yeah, that is the same for me, because I grew up in these very changing seasons, and that was also actually something that really confused me when I was when we were living in London for 2 years, was that I walked around and I kept waiting for winter, and you would get like 2 days of sleet maybe and nothing else. There would never be a proper covering of snow on the ground, and that was just so disorienting for my mind, because I lost winter. I lost one of the 4 seasons I'm so used to. It was very strange. So I like most people, I like the place where I grew up seasonally, because that is what I'm used to. I know a lot of people have the same with whether that is the tropics or elsewhere, that there is a familiarity to the nature that you grew up in. The berries sound delicious. They are so delicious. Very much recommend if you ever have a chance. Max says hello. Hello, Max. Just got back from spending time with sister, her husband, and my niece. That sounds like a lovely time. It is the season where many people spend time with their family. Gooberface says, I have seasonal affective disorder and use light therapy visor. They work really well. Yeah, and they're getting more affordable too. My doctor recommended them to try to deal with some of the increased migraines that I'm getting in winter, and they are becoming the range where actually people can afford them, not just institutions. Because again, when I worked in Tromsø, when I studied in Tromsø, the university actually invested in a couple of daylight lamps, light therapy lamps, to have in the cafeteria, because they were too expensive for students to afford, but they really helped, especially people coming from much further south who are used to much longer days, as a public thing for people to get. On the other side of the coin, you have the midnight sun. Yeah, some naval history YouTubers were doing a live stream from Narvik in May or June, and someone asked, when is sunset? In July, indeed. Yeah, it's really interesting. I had never experienced the midnight sun before I went there to study, so for me it was a new and interesting experience. And what I found really fascinating was that one night I walked outside my student accommodation and out into like nature. We were living very close to nature. And I just took in the smells and the sounds and everything. And it's like the sun is still up, but the light is a little bit subdued. And yet all the sounds, all the smells, all the other cues that aren't light, that aren't, that big fireball in the sky, are telling you that it is night. The bird song is nightly bird song. Like the smells are night smells because it does grow a little bit cooler at night. And it was super fascinating to me, having not experienced that before, how the rest of your senses could still tell that it was in the middle of the night, yet the glowing fireball was still up in the sky. It's super interesting. You're playing with your niece and she'll be 2 years old next month? That is very nice. That is a good time to be having a lot of fun with their uncles. I hope you had a good time doing that, Max. We had winters when I was young, but now there is hardly any winter anymore. Only dark clouds and cold rain. Yeah, that must be I think that must be very disorienting. I think I would find that disorienting if I gradually lost a season completely because of things happening. Yeah, I like my winters. I know not everyone does, but I do. But I do know they're also very difficult for disabled people to get around in, because it's just impossible to get your wheelchair anywhere due to the snow and ice and everything. Just making it impossible to do what you normally would, which is not very good and not how things should be. Moose's eyes, let's see, Lisa says Moose's eyes don't reflect car headlights, which is why they're so dangerous to drivers on rural roads. Interesting. I just know they are big and scary, and sometimes they run along the highway to chase the cars instead of over the road, which is terrifying. But yeah, we have been lucky. We haven't had any run-ins with Moose. But they are big animals and deserve respect and caution. Stripy Crayon says, I would love to experience Midnight Sun and could possibly drive all the way up to see it. It is a beautiful drive too. We've done it a few times. But it was very nice to be there and live there for a few years and get the northern lights and, great friends. I look forward to. I'm gonna visit some of them in February, and I'm really looking forward to that. It's been far too long since I went back there and said hi. Could have just as easily ended up living there as anywhere else, because that is a gorgeous city. It's very nice. And, you can't really sell the view in Tromsø because everyone has gorgeous views. Just stunning. And Kelly says you have to go to work. Have a good work day, Kelly. I hope you have a good one. Also, moose legs are so long you likely knock them over into your windshield. That is very often what happens. That actually happened to my uncle once. They had a speed car that was even lower than usual, and you knock out the legs like bowling pins, and then the whole moose falls into not just your yes, windshield is the right word, like not the front of the car, but they fall into the cabin where people are sitting. It can be really devastating for everyone involved. Really terrifying stuff. Luckily they were unharmed, but absolutely respect the wildlife hanging out. Thanks for the company. You're off to the chess championship as Christmas tradition here dictates. Have a very good one. I guess we should also get going, as it is currently 8 p.m. here, and we have been going for 2 hours, and I promised Spouse I wouldn't go too far over time this time. So a very, very good end of the year from this part of the world and this void to all of you. I hope you have a very good one. Oh, sorry, Kathleen, you've been battling cobwebs, almost missed you. We are just about to wrap up, I'm afraid. I hope that you are not too disappointed. But this very snuggly void, very sleepy void, is going to snooze for a while, and we'll go say hello to spouse so that they are not lonely this day, and then suddenly it will be 2025 and I will see you again in 2025, I guess, next year, which is mad. That does not sound right. Anyway, have a very good rest of the year and take care of yourself. Remember to rest. See you soon.